Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Gary Lee, the founder of 33%, a UK-based consulting firm specializing in operational efficiency, business performance, and strategic growth for service-based businesses. Gary brings decades of experience leading agencies and consulting firms and now dedicates his time to helping founders scale with clarity, control, and culture. Gary, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you. And thank you for the introduction. It was lovely.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us on a little trip down memory lane to before you started 33%.
Hmm.
What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
I was CEO of a tech business called Red Eye International. Had been CEO. I started when I think I was CEO when I was six. I nearly said 16. That would be mad, wouldn't it? 36. 36. I was still relatively young, but not quite that young. So I was a 36-year-old, took over running the company. I'd been there a while. My background is data. I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I'd come through the business that way. I went through the client side of the business, went into the tech side of it, and then eventually ended up running the business. Transformed that business probably, I think, over about 5 years from 8 million to 15 million. But
Wow.
I got to a point where I'm not going to say bored because that would be really unfair, but I wasn't getting the buzz I was getting before. We had a lot of big corporate clients, which is great, very good for a steady business, helps you along. But I'd started to meet a couple of smaller businesses and got to work with the owners. And I just got to a point, I turned around and I sold my stake in the business and decided I didn't actually know what I wanted to do at that point. So decided I needed to do something else. Timing wasn't brilliant because 2 months after I decided that, and when I was only 2 months into my 6-month gardening leave, the global pandemic started. So that was wonderful. But it ended up being great because I was at home. I was looking after my kids. So that was great for a bit. And then I was chatting to a good friend of mine, James Adam, who is the co-founder of 33%. And he was having similar conversations with me. We were chatting on Zoom because obviously we couldn't meet at that point. And we were chatting on Zoom and we were both talking about various things. And we just said, you know what? We've known each other for, I think, about 12 years at that point. We talked about doing something together. Why don't we just do it? And he was
Mm.
running his agency at the time, and I was doing nothing. Truthfully, I literally was doing nothing. I was just at home, and I just said, "Let's do something on the side. You're going to be a bit of a side hustle for you. It can be my full-time thing, and we'll get something off and running." What do we want to do? We want to work with the actual owners directly. We want to help them grow their business and just get a bit more involved in things, and that's where it all came from.
Yeah. It sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were looking for that next challenge. You had success in the CEO role, tremendous success, 8 to 15 million in a very short time period. And then you're like, okay, what's next? Is
Yeah,
that accurate?
100%. And I wasn't being fulfilled in the job anymore. I wasn't. We could have kept growing.
Yeah.
I felt like we probably reached a point, if I'm honest, that without significant investment, I probably couldn't have doubled it again. And I didn't feel that the investment was going to be the likelihood. And wasn't sure truthfully, where I was adding as much value. I built a great team under me. I think the greatest form of success I can say about my old company is I left and two people that took over running the company with two people I bought through. So I feel like, yeah, that's good. I did my bit. I grew the business and I needed the next challenge. And in truth, it was great. I was a CEO of a successful large company, but I was employee number 6, but I
Mm.
didn't create the company. And there was a little itch, which I think we all get at some point of going, now I want to create my own thing. I want to do my own thing for a bit.
Yeah, 100%. You caught the entrepreneurial bug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't call yourself an entrepreneur until you've set up at least 2 companies. That's my theory anyway.
Okay, there you go. I like that. So let's fast forward to give the listeners a little bit more context into 33% today. Who would you say is your ideal customer? Who do you love to work with? And then from there, we can dive into the different offers and services you provide.
So it's a good timing because I think we've refined quite a bit in the last 12 months who the ideal customer is. And I think we split ourselves between quite small business owners who are just, who are sort of going along nicely, but need a real kick in going in the right direction. And then probably the area that I'm most passionate about and we really get into involved the most is first time, what I call first time founders, first time business owners,
Mm.
people who've set up a business. They've never done it before. They've got a good idea. They've got things going, but they've got these classic problems that it's all completely new to them. So they're just like, I don't understand this. Does this happen? Why is this happening? And obviously, people like James and myself who've run multiple businesses, we recognize that, we know them. And actually, it's the great thing of really easily helping. It's like the really simple things that people just don't realize. So there's,
Yeah.
I think they're really in the sweet spot for me, these first time founders that have just got their business going and there's a bit of success that they're
Mm.
really struggling with it. And they're also, as a general rule, they're alone. That's the thing. I find that's, and people tell you a lot about setting up a business. They'll tell you it's hard work. They'll tell you put the hours in, that you can't guarantee the revenue streams and everything else. They don't normally tell you about how lonely it is.
Yeah. 100%. I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to that. I completely understand that myself. When it comes to working with these first-time founders, with these different business owners, what do those offers and services look like? Walk me through that.
So we work in two ways. From the start, we were doing workshops. That was a big part of what we did. We started off, we focused a lot on sales and marketing at the start, but we gradually broadened that out to a wider sphere of helping businesses grow. But we tend to do those workshops for other businesses. We've not made a decision early doors, and I'm not really sure why, if I think back, but we said we're not going to we're not going to search these out ourselves. We're going to actually partner with like growth hubs around the country and with Prince's Trust and some charities and with other businesses that are all about running workshops for small business owners. They bring these groups together and then we run them on their behalf in various different. So the most popular one we do at the moment is probably one that's called How to Start a Business Successfully, and it's really just about taking people on that little journey. So that the workshops was really how we grew. But alongside it, I was doing a couple of Ned jobs because it was just getting involved in a couple of tech companies because I've got a tech background. So I was on the board of a couple of small tech businesses in the local area, which I was really, really enjoying. And it morphed from there into working one to one with small business owners, and in particular, as I said, the first time founders. So really focused on that in the last 12 months. And I think a big part of what we're probably, I say about to, we're probably a good month away, but we're about a month away from launching a more formal offer to working directly with them. But at the moment, it's very informal. I just tend to meet different founders in various different guises. I'm sure we'll get into that as we go along. But as I meet them, I'll find out whether or not how is the best to work with them. For some people, it's literally work on an hourly rate and we'll talk, and I'll talk once a week with them. Or I'll talk every once a fortnight and we'll get in a conversation and we'll just bill them at the end of a month. Or with some of them, we'll meet and I'll do half-hour workshops with them. Half-day workshops with them, really work through, get them a kickoff. For some of them, it's a really intensive at the start. And then once it's settled, and what it's rolling into and what we really want it to become is it's almost like a mini Ned. For these businesses, they can't afford it. They can't really afford to justify a non-exec director on a board and stuff like that. They need someone like that, a peer who they can just reflect and talk to. So we're trying to create a version of that that works on a smaller account.
Very interesting. I'm curious because by the time this comes out, your offer will have most likely already launched or close
Okay.
to launching. So let's dive a little bit into that formal offer that you're thinking about. Walk me through that and let's give the listeners a little bit more context.
So essentially, the work will be you've got two options. You'll either be able to, the context of what we do is the same, which is we will work directly with the business owner and we will act like a member of a board, an advisor who can help them with their experiences. We can help them just Christ, give them someone to talk to that loneliness. I talk this week alone. I've been chatting with a guy in Ireland, a guy in Melbourne, and a young lady in Abu Dhabi. All have got similar sorts of problems. They've got to a point they need help with growth, or they just need to bounce ideas off, or they just want someone to go, this has just happened with a client. Is this normal? So it's working with them directly and go, you can either work more formally and we'll give you a half day every single month where we meet together either in person or in Zoom and we'll have an agenda, we'll work for those problems. Or it's more of I've got a couple of clients who I've been working with quite a long time now that have personal mobile. They'll ring me if they need to ring me. They'll message me on WhatsApp if they need to. And it is a relationship like having a board member who you can just reach out to. Not often, as I was fortunate, I had a chairman who was very accessible and I could talk to whenever I wanted. And that's what I've tried to create for these founders.
Mm. Yeah, I'm super curious what underpinned the decision behind wanting to shift a little bit more to a more formal offer instead of the things that you were doing before. Is it you want to get more targeted messaging or get clear with your with kind of the value proposition, or what's the idea behind switching the offer slightly?
It's 100% about how to go to market,
Got it.
because everything up to this point has been very informal and casual, and it's about me just reaching out to
Yeah,
people and getting a conversation going, stuff like that. I want to have something I can formally put out there. So actually, we get it. None of it's inbound at them; it's all outbound. Well, I say none of it's inbound. It's a combination. All of the clients I work with are either outbound from me or inbound recommendations, but
got
none
it.
of it is through actual marketing. And bearing in mind, I own a marketing company, so that's terrible to admit. But none of it's through actual marketing, and none of it's through actually having a proposition out there that people can find. And that's the bit I want to add to it. So it's to give us a much better go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, I'm super glad you brought that up because that's a big thing that we talk about is having a very clearly defined offer that can resonate with your ideal customer very quickly is critical in today's landscape because obviously there's consultants that pop up left and right, coaches every single day. There's more people entering the market. So having some sort of differentiate is big.
Yeah,
You touched upon something I would love to dive deeper into, which is client acquisition and lead generation. So you mentioned inbound recommendations, so referrals is one aspect of it. And then outbound, dive deeper into the outbound. What does that look like? Is that just LinkedIn? Is that Sales
it,
Navigator? What does that look like?
it is predominantly LinkedIn. I would say probably 75% of everybody I work with has come through LinkedIn. The random, and there's always I suppose everyone's always got their little random one. I did a little project to test out Upwork
Okay.
randomly, and just put, and almost forgot about it. James jokes for the fact that I'm not sure I even know where I put it, but there was a little project I put on Upwork to test something out. We were testing, we love trialing things so that we know how to talk to clients about them. And we have an Etsy store, for example, just because we wanted to try out what it was like. So I put this project up there, and before I knew it, I'd had 4 people reach out to me and ask for me. So I talked about the guy in Ireland and the guy in Melbourne. Both of them came through just Upwork, reaching out to me
Yeah.
on Upwork, just asking for someone who could just be basically a mentor in many ways, but just in a slightly more formal way. But LinkedIn is the predominant one. I basically do my own research. I go looking, that wonderful tool that most people never heard of called Google. It's easy to use. I get on there. I get a lot of alerts about growing companies, particularly in the local area. So it's a combination. I would say 40% of my clients are anywhere around the world, but good 60% are based within an hour's drive of me, which is wonderful because I love being able to meet people in person. So often I'm looking for growth companies in the local area. You do a bit of research, you find out, yeah, it's the first time they've done, and then just starting to outreach to them, starting a conversation, offer to basically share war stories, explain I've been there, I've grown a business, I know how horrible some of it can be. If you just want a coffee with someone who can listen to your moans and everything else, that's how I start the conversation with most
Yeah.
people, and then meet them a couple of times and then start talking about how I might be able to help them.
Random thought that I think could be helpful for you is I know a bunch of people that have Upwork automations. And if you just Google or you just type in YouTube Upwork automations AI, where they use AI to just automate that outreach on Upwork, and they get some pretty big jobs just
Yep.
doing that. But it takes less of their time. I think that might be cool to check out.
Cool. Yep.
Now, one thing I always like to talk about is the idea of building a predictable lead generation machine and how important that is for just any type of business, but especially consulting businesses to have in place. So when you think about that, what is your thought process? And are there any future initiatives that you're thinking about adding in more predictability when it comes to lead gen?
Yeah, and the truth is, we've not been a great at it, which is terrible to admit because. So I talked about my tech company. It was a marketing automation company. Now that's literally what we did was build marketing automation platforms for businesses in the UK. So I'm a massive believer in it. And our own sales pipeline was built exactly on that. It was built on in guarantee a regular funnel. The truth is, because it was just me and James and we haven't been pushing, we've just been
Got it.
quite happy with how it's been going. But the whole point of the new proposition is to go, right, now we've got something that we can start. We can get some lead magnets out there. We can start creating things like we're going to do some 30-minute free work and free consultations where we just get on calls like that. So we start to get a regular amount of inquiries coming in that we can then look and close. Because the truth is, and this is a good thing to admit and a bad thing to admit, we probably, and I say we, me, close probably about 50% of the people I get into a conversation with, which is
Wow.
great. It's because I know, but that's because I've done so much work in refining who I talk to that I know when I talk to
Mhm.
people, they're people I can help.
Yeah.
So it works in that process. The reality is, though, we can always take on more clients. And the truth is, the goal of launching this is that we start adding more clients on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And the goal is to then start hiring some, and not hiring them as people to work for us, but just hiring more consultants to work as part
Yeah.
of the partnership and start,
Yeah.
utilizing people with different skills. Because I've run a tech business, I've run a user experience business, I own a marketing agency, I own a consultancy. So I've got experience in various different ways. I'm on the board of a lot of stuff in education, technology, and stuff like that. But there's areas I don't know. There's lots of areas I don't know. James is a very creative guy. He's brilliant with brand. There's loads of areas he can do. But there's other things that we don't do. And I want to start bringing in other experts to be part of this sort of mini Ned idea. So the idea is someone's working with us, they're paying for a certain amount of time a month, but they might not always need me. They might actually need us to bring in, I know my way around tax, but you might want an expert in tax. So let's bring that person in.
Yeah.
So the idea is to expand out that way.
Powerful. When you think of your vision and really where you want to take the company, let's say over the next 12 months, it's exciting time to have you on now because you're about to launch this new offer, which is cool. What do you want the next 12 months to look like from a revenue perspective, performance targets, or maybe just goals in general? Walk me through that.
This doesn't sound as ambitious as it probably does, but it really does fit to what we're trying to do, which is I probably want to add, once we've launched, we want to add 2 new business owners a month. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And we do that. We think within 6 months, that means we'll have to start bringing in consultants because me and James's capacity will be filled up. Because we probably spend at the moment 30% of our time growing 33% and 70% working on our marketing agency.
Got it.
And the goal is we want to switch that the other way around. We want 70% of the time on 33%. And we want the marketing agency, we want to probably bring in a manager to run that side of the business. And it becomes like, we still like the business. We like being involved in it, but we don't want it to be our day-to-day jobs going. The ambition in 12 months time is probably 70% of my time is on 33%. We've probably started to use 2 or 3 new consultants as part of it. And we'll have probably about 25 new business owners because a business owner is quite a big commitment. I don't like to take too many on at once because we want to make sure we get to know them. I don't really want to work with them for a short term. It's a long term thing. The best
Yeah.
people I'm working with, people I've worked with for 2 years now.
Yeah, I love that. What do you feel like is the biggest challenge to making that happen?
It probably is lead generation. It probably is the fact that I'm so detailed and picky. I need to work out a process for getting a greater amount of leads to talk to. And that is probably going to then involve us having to use technology and potentially even outsource part of the lead gen process. I think that's going to be hard for us to do, the nature of what we do, but I think it's possible and I want to make it
Yeah.
possible. So I think that at the moment, that's the biggest stopper of growth will just be we're not talking to enough people. And it's about talking to more people. Someone always says to me, if you had infinite amounts of money, what would you do? I think or not infinite, if you could big investment, it would probably be on someone to create a first time founders community that we can
Mm.
then own and control and run and then get involved with all those people because then that's that whole massive collection of people that are perfect for us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You mentioned something that I want to dive deeper on, closing at 50%. That is very, very good. So walk me through, what does your sales process look like from end to end? Once a lead comes in, they raise their hand, hey, Gary, I'm interested in working with you, to all the way to becoming a client.
So I've alluded to it a little bit earlier, which is I'll do a lot of the background research. So I'll only reach out to people I think are going to be
Okay.
useful to talk to. I will then, let's take LinkedIn as the classic sales cycle. I'll follow them for a little bit. I'll see what they're talking about. I'll understand what they're doing. I'll then reach out. I'll send them a message along with an invite to meet, to connect, and then just offer them some advice, comment on a few things, ask about the problems they currently go through, share some of the stories from my past, and explain and build a connection based on similar problems that they're having that I've had in the past. And that's
Mm,
that you start that process. Then I'll typically organize a call with them and just say, let's just have a chat, share your problems, just have a chat for half an hour. Or if they're local, we'll meet for a coffee. Just
yes.
the guy I've started working with probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. At that we went through this exact process. We met, we talked through various things. We had a chat on Zoom. He's only about an hour and a half away, so we eventually met up for a coffee. Ended that coffee, and he just said, "Look, you know, this is great. I don't get to talk to anybody because it's just me at the moment, and that's so often the case. So it's giving them someone else to talk to, and then eventually they get used to talking to you. They want to talk to you more formally. They want you to get a bit more involved. And then I'll just slowly, I'll probably have 2 or 3 meetings with them and then start to put in place more formal, regular catch ups and start contracting from there. And I don't really, and I say contracting in the sense of explaining how much I'm going to charge them and how often we're going to meet. I don't sign any formal contracts to do with this. We will do with the new process because we want to, and
Nice.
we just want to make it a bit more formal. But at the
Yep.
moment, it's just a case of going, look, if it's not working for you or it's not working for me, I genuinely don't want to be involved
Yeah.
because I'm doing this because I really enjoy doing it, not because it's some desperate need and some desperate ego.
Yeah, I love that. And one big kind of meta lesson that I'm getting from what you're saying, and I hope the listeners are catching on to this, is understanding that this is a process of iteration, where just because you started off doing one thing doesn't need to be that's the thing that you do forever. You can iterate and evolve over time depending on what your clients need, depending on what you can fulfill on, and just adding more value to the
Abs-
marketplace.
Absolutely, 100%. When I started out, it was very much, we were talking about sales and marketing, and was very much talking about group sessions, and it's now evolved. We're talking about first time founders, we're talking about a wider business fit, and we're talking about one to one, and we're talking about basically being proper formal advisors for people. But the truth is, the nature of what we do is changing, but the marketplace has changed so much in that time as well. And the amount of people starting businesses, I know it doesn't seem like it because the economy is not necessarily brilliant everywhere in the world at the moment, but the amount of people starting businesses in certain places is actually growing massively.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest reasons for that is not saying it's the advent of side hustles is a new phenomenon, but it really has massively taken up people's understanding of how easy it is to actually, do you know what? I can start something on the side. I can build it. And I think that's a big, when I look to the future, I think those are the guys that I want to be as closely associated. I want to find that community. I want to find the people who have started their businesses. And that really tipping point is that point of when do you go from a side hustle to make this your full-time job? And I
Mm,
think that's one thing I really want to get my head around because I want to really help people in that area. And I
yeah.
feel like if we get that, I think that'll be a great new set of customer base for us.
100%. I love that. If you were talking to new business owners and they're starting in 2025, let's say they're starting some sort of online service-based business, whether they're consulting, they're some sort of agency services, what are some pieces of advice that you could quickly share with them in a few minutes or less?
Number one, genuinely number one is always the same, which is do something you can enjoy because it's going to be hard work. You might not get paid a lot to start with. You're going to have to do long hours. If you don't enjoy it in some way, don't do it. Like I know there are people out there who successfully build businesses just to make money, and that's good for them. I genuinely, for most people, I don't think that works, and I think you have to find something you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about it, at least enjoy it. I think that's number one because beyond anything else, a completely different angle on it is partnerships. Massive fan of partnerships. I grew 2 out of the 4 businesses I've grown have been almost predominantly through finding good partnerships. A user experience business I had, which was doing reasonably well, but it was a services based business. We built a connection and a partnership with Optimizely in the US but this is years ago. And when they first came over to the UK, built a partnership and essentially became literally every single client we got was just given to us by them. And also a really good partnership is, I think, a really nice way of growing an online business.
Yeah, I love that. For the people that are interested in working with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Best way of doing it is to find me on LinkedIn. That is, I can point you in the direction of websites, and James would probably tell me I should point you in the direction of our Instagram and everything else. But truth is, it's a people business, and the best place to find someone is so you just search out Gary Lee on LinkedIn, and you will find my smiling face, and that is the best place. Reach out, ask me a question. I'll get you. If you're local, I'll go and buy you that coffee. If you're not local, then we'll chat on Zoom.
Awesome. Gary, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you much. Really appreciate that.
Anytime. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to reach out to Gary on LinkedIn. Very easy to find. We'll also tag him somewhere around here, so you'll be able to find that pretty easily. And if you're inspired by today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner and you're looking to scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.